law.
We're on.
Welcome. You can talk to folks.
Huh?
Or you can talk to people. You can talk to people online.
What up, people? Good morning. Or should I say good lunch?
Well, you can talk normal. A little bit louder.
I know, I just don't want to interfere with people's conversations.
Oh, they'll be okay.
No. So rude. Or in the words of my sister, she used to say, how rude.
How's everybody doing today? Got my glasses on. We are at
Veronica's.
our favorite go-to spot, Veronica's. Having lunch again.
We did so well the first time, that's why we're coming back the second time.
Well, we had chicken last time. I'm sorry we missed you guys last Wednesday. Kind of things took place that we weren't expecting, so we weren't able to do a podcast live. So here we are today at Veronica's. You have to understand that they only allow 8 people
Right now.
in their dining area. So we were able to get in before they got full. Now everybody else is going to be turned away.
Well, the restaurant only seats, what, 20, 25,
Oh no, probably
30, 40?
about 40 or 50. What 10%? What 25% of 8? I don't know how they got their numbers. It seems like it holds a lot more.
Maybe they counted the restroom and they counted the kitchen.
Oh, you know what? They're probably counting employees. That's probably why they only have 8 people in. How you guys doing? Everybody doing all right? Enjoying lunch?
No, they said 10% was, if 10% of 40 people was 4, 20% was 8. That's why they did that. I would think.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. I think I need to lose some weight. I'm a little chunky in there.
A little bit. So what are we talking about today? What's on your agenda?
Really what we're doing right here. We're talking about being disruptive. And
Let's talk about it. We got to be disruptive.
You are being disruptive.
We have to
That's
be.
the problem. So we're going to talk about it, and I feel like we're disruptive in the restaurant. That's why I'm trying to be whisper, but he doesn't want me to be whisper. So I'll just come down here and talk, okay? So I wanted you to explain disruptive to us, because I feel like a disruptive actually is a term in the techie world, and it's about things that are new and things that changed the course of things. And so I felt like disruptive is kind of like, it kind of is like COVID. COVID was disruptive. It came in and just changed the way things are. But I think it means innovative too.
It's
to upset the industry.
Disruptive or disruption is a trendy word.
Yeah.
very, very trendy right now, probably in the last 5 years, which basically means to, the way the term is used, or the word is used, is being disruptive means to change what the normal procedures of what things that are taking place, upsetting the complacency, the what is it? I'm thinking of the word. What's the word? Business as usual. And there's actually a term. Actually, that's what I thought about was business as usual, which is if you take the abbreviation of business as usual, it's when you put the word together, it means bow, right?
BAU.
Bow. And so in this coaching system that I'm in right now, they talk about you have to have, this sounds funny, you have to have bowel movements.
Yeah.
You have to move from doing business as usual in order to be innovative, in order to do change, in order to have change. And so in the normalcy of what we have,
which we don't have any.
We don't have right. There's not very. It's getting back to quote unquote normalcy, but what it looks like to be disruptive is to mess everything up that's normal. Kind of, I guess, an easy
chaos.
Chaos. Well, no, not chaos, but kind of, I guess, a life example would be if you get up in the morning, you're on your way to work, and on your way to work,
you get a flat
tire. You have a flat tire. And
or so you have a pop.
You have a flat tire. Your car don't start, so it disrupts your normal
flow.
Your normal flow of things, your routine, and so it's disruptive. But the thing about being disruptive is that it don't just disrupt or interrupt. It creates a new avenue or a new way of doing things or a new format. And so when you talk about being disruptive, that's really that's what they're referring to as far as being disruptive is changing the norm into something different. And that's what everybody wants to do, but not everybody can accomplish that. And the reason it's hard for them to accomplish that is because of the lack of consistency.
Yeah.
So in order to be disruptive into a system or disruptive into a market, you have to be consistent, even more so than the norm, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does. It's making me think of our church, for example, or Riverside. Are we disruptive because we're doing things outside the norm of church, but at the same time, are we consistent in what we do, and are we not are we just consistent, but are we, we are doing things outside of the norm. But when we come back to normalcy, will we still be doing things outside of the norm? Are we disruptive to the industry? And I hate to say that because church isn't an industry.
Yeah, it kind of is. Church people don't like that because it's not church, it's a ministry, it's a body. Well, it's also an industry. It's actually kind of
a big industry,
$1 billion industry. We sell Bibles, we sell books, we sell videos, T-shirts. Subscribe to our Christianese lifestyle, and what messes it up is when somebody comes in and does church different.
Yeah. So you are a disruptor to the industry, to the church industry. You're not? Do you think you are? Let's ask that. That's the question. Do you think you are?
I don't feel like I am.
I would like to know if anybody else thinks that. If they think you're a disruptor to the industry, because a lot of people get upset and they're like, you can't say that. You can't say that. We don't do it that way. We've never done it that way.
I think, shout out to his house, Pastor Juan. I think Pastor Juan is more of a disruptor.
That's good.
Of church.
That's true.
Of normal church.
That's true.
They have a hip hop church, so they're doing church completely different than what the norm would be.
Yeah.
You know, so they're approaching church from a different perspective. That would be more of a. I think his house is probably more of a disruptive avenue or
to the industry,
to the church
industry.
body, because they're not doing what everybody else does. For us, I don't feel like we're a disruptor from that perspective. I think I tend to be more of an innovator, is doing things different, but not so much where I'm causing disruption.
Well, that I think you tiptoe. What's it called? Tread lightly. Tread lightly.
Why is that?
Because I think that if you were
ready whenever you're ready.
I think that if you were disruptive, that you would cause a lot of people to get, so to speak, their panties in a wad, and they'll be like, "Oh my God, he's doing church differently. He's not doing it the same way that, that it should be done."
Well, I think about things different.
Why?
Because I don't like the way church is done.
That's funny because your daughter said that the other day. She said, "Mom, I was walking by you and you were preaching at somebody and you were like, Christians cause people to leave and, da-da-da-da-da. And you just went on about Christians." And I was like, "That's because I'm not a Christian. I love God and I want to do what He asked me to do. And I'm not going to push people away because of that." To me, that's disruptive.
So you're not Christian? That's dangerous.
No, I'm not. I'm not. So,
I guess for me, I just don't like the way church is done, has been done. I don't feel like it's effective in doing what it's called to do as a church. People that I think that are innovators and disruptive are people like Francis Chan. I think he's. I just spit. I think he's a. I think Francis Chan is a disruptor. I think Andy Stanley is a disruptor when it comes to how church is done. Greg Rochelle, I think, are disruptors because they're doing.
Got all quiet.
Greg Rochelle, Andy Stanley, Francis Chan. To me, these guys are disrupted the way church is done. The way they do church, the way they approach church, has set a lot of. It's crazy, but because they've changed things so much, they literally they changed how we do church, and so now a lot of people do church the way they do church, and that's what disruptive means. So it's not just pews in a church building. Francis Chan, like they do home churches. Like, they don't even have a main facility where they all meet. They have a bunch of small home churches that they meet in. And then you look at Andy Stanley, just his approach on how he communicates the scriptures and how he communicates from the Bible. Disrupted. And the thing about being a disruptor, the thing about being an innovator, is that you catch all the heat.
Yeah.
When you're the first one to go.
Yeah.
And because people, they everything from being a heresy to a heretic to being antichrist, like all these different things that start coming into play, and all you're doing is looking and applying something that's a little bit different that the church or the corporation or the industry is not used to. So it's different. And as Maddie always says, new's not good.
Yeah,
the crudes.
Yeah, the crudes.
Right, so like
new is bad.
New is bad, right?
Yeah.
And so that's how the church has come about. And it's interesting to me when you look at the scriptures, is that when you look at the scriptures in the Bible, everything that Jesus was doing, he was disrupting everything. Pause that because we're going to order. I want a fajita burrito, and I want pico and cheese on it. Yeah, you know what? And put me some beans also.
Beans? Okay. How many would you want?
Let me start off with one.
You can have some of mine. And I want a fajita burrito, but I want just fajita and cheese and rice.
Just one?
Mm-hmm. Oh, can I get sour cream in that?
Inside or inside?
Inside, fine.
No, because you won't eat it. On the side.
On
On the
the
side.
side, okay.
Yeah, thank you.
So
The
when you look,
fajita is really good, by the way.
yeah, fajitas are really good here. I like the burritos. Their huevos rancheros are off the chain. I don't know. I have specific restaurants for specific foods.
Yeah.
So we may just do a tour of Waco's spots to eat while we have.
No. A tour of his favorite restaurants.
There you go. A tour of my favorite restaurants
Because
in
there's
Waco.
lots of restaurants, but he likes 6 of them.
Yeah, and they're all home. They're all home folks,
So that means we need to go to
locally
Mom
owned.
and Pop's.
Yeah, mom and pops and barbecue spot. We'll take you. We'll take you a tour. You'll get a feel for Waco when you come into town, or if you're here, you can hit those spots up. You know, when we did that chicken, we were at Crispy Chicken.
Jim's.
Man, I was getting text messages. Everybody was telling me, man, I'm going to lunch there. And we forgot to tell y'all, Jim's Crispy Chicken, only cash only.
Cash only.
So if you watch the other episode, you have to have cash. Anyway, so when you look at when someone innovates in an industry or an area, they're usually the individuals that are thinking outside the box, looking at things different, and they're doing what nobody else wants to do or nobody has thought of.
So aren't we disruptors at our job if we're
You can
doing
be.
things that people are not thinking about, or things that people don't want to do?
It is, because to me, when you start disrupting the norm, that's when all the haters start coming out.
Yeah.
Because they don't like what you're doing, they don't like how you're doing it, they don't look at it's hard to describe. I'll use this as an example. So in Waco, if you're watching outside of Waco, and even if you're watching in Waco, when Chip and Joanne started doing things in Waco, they literally disrupted the culture.
Yeah.
In Waco. I mean, traffic is up, tourism is up. I mean, Waco went from being David Koresh
to
memory,
bad.
a bad David Koresh memory, to Baylor
And everybody
winning
wanted to
national
be
championships, and then Chip and Joanne turns it into a tourist spot. And there are two different people in Waco. There are people that don't like it because of everything that they're doing, and then there are people that love it because of everything that they're doing. And so when you look at what that looks like, being disruptive to the norm of the culture that we have in Waco, the way business is, I could say this, that two things that I noticed just being a lifelong resident of Waco is that, one, it caused people to start taking care of their personal property,
Oh, you mean you?
their homes, me. Well, I was doing that before. I'm just moving faster than I was before. So you got people that are taking care of their personal property better, meaning their homes, painting them. Like, people are just doing upkeep on their homes a lot better. One. And then the other thing is that businesses started really looking at how they're doing business and trying to get some of the clientele that is coming with our tourism in Waco. And so it's forcing them, what they do with Magnolia Table, the customer service, it's like Disneyland. Like when
It
you
really
go,
is.
like, so their level of customer service, their level of quality, the level of excellence that they provide in their business, it caused everyone else who wants to do better. They raised they elevated the playing field, so to speak. So it made everybody like, man, I need to do better. And so you can see businesses making adjustments and improving different areas and whatever it is, customer service, quality food, like all these other things. So they disrupted the way business as usual in Waco was done, culturally, business, home. And so, yeah, there's some cons as far as taxes and, things, traffic.
Well, and getting citations for you to get your house in order.
Right, yeah, so when, or not citations and warnings and all that other stuff. And so when you look at that, that's what disruptive looks like in a market or an industry. So from a church perspective, some people look and they think, kind of like what you said, they see me as a disruptor in the church community.
I think you are.
I don't personally see myself
You could
that
say
way.
that or say innovator, but disruptor is better because you.
I'm just listening.
And this is going to sound really bad,
Oh God, here we go.
but to say that you're a disruptor because you leave a bad taste in Christians' mouth or other churches' mouth because you're doing stuff outside the norm and you're pushing people to the places they don't like. Kind of like Sunday, your message was like really, really good, but at the same time, people didn't want to hear it. They're like, who are you to come in and make me feel uncomfortable?
Yeah, I don't know. I just try to make people think. I can agree with you to a certain degree. Waco. Now, this might sound like I'm being boastful, but I'm trying to be transparent and honest at the same time. But I was one of the first individuals to bring rap, Christian rap music into Waco.
Yeah.
And I remember, I don't know who's watching, so if you're watching, I hurt your feelings, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to call anybody out. But when I did the very first Christian rap concert, it was Little Rascal had came in out of Houston. My best friend, Juan, Carry On, the pastor of his house church. And I can't think of her name.
I don't even know. What they look like?
Oh, the female, she sings. What's her name?
Oh, Stephanie.
No, not Stephanie. From Mighty Wind.
Polly.
Polly. I don't know why I couldn't remember her name. I saw her face, I couldn't remember her name. Polly, no disrespect, Polly, if you're watching. So, we had Little Rascal, Juan, and Polly doing a Christian rap concert in South Waco Recreation Center in the gym, and it was the very first one of its kind. And we had probably maybe 75 to 100 people that came, and it was geared for students and college students, teenagers, college students, and sat down with tons of pastors, tons of youth pastors trying to promote this thing. And when the concert was over, all the lights came up and everybody was leaving, it was probably 80% pastors, 80% parents, 80% adults, and there was maybe, matter of fact, if I remember correctly, there was maybe about 20 students total, and some of those came from a girls' home. Like somebody brought them girls' home. And none of the youth pastors were there. There were church pastors, senior pastors that were there, and none of them brought their students.
Because they wanted to see what you were doing.
Because they wanted to see what I was doing.
Because you're a disruptor.
That's what I'm saying. So from
you
that
were breaking outside the norm.
Breaking outside the norm. So from that perspective, I could say that. And so today, there are churches that are attempting. I'm upsetting people right now. I know I'm fixing to upset people. There are churches right now in our city that are attempting and wanting to do exactly what Pastor Juan is doing. But they only do it because they want to use it as an outreach. And Pastor Juan is changing the culture of church and how church looks. He's not just bringing a Christian rapper in to draw a crowd. He's actually going after the hip-hop culture, which is completely different in how you do church. So from that perspective, I may be innovating in thinking what I'm doing, but I feel like he's more of a disruptor. And that's just my opinion from where I sit in ministry. But I know that people like you and other people that we have relationships with, they see me as the disruptor.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, we do. And what did I say last night? There's something about, or maybe this morning, there's a difference between disrupting, or is it the same thing as disrupting and, what was the other word? And you said, no, those are two totally different things.
Interruption, disruption? I don't remember.
I don't remember. But what made me want to talk about, oh, by the way, Tim once got me asada, and I don't cook, and I can't send you none of this one. And Annette said hi. But I wanted to talk about it for a minute because I felt like I saw that word, and even though it's a trendy word, I hear about it all the time. disruptors, influencer.
Oh, influencers.
Influencer. I said, what's the difference between a disruptor and an influencer? And people pay influencers because they have large followings or they do things and they can influence others to do something. A disruptor doesn't care about influencers. They go in and they do it.
Right.
And this is what made me think about it. The Netflix documentary that we watched.
Yeah.
That's
So there's a
documentary.
quick plug.
Netflix.
There's a Netflix documentary. Here's the funny thing about it. The Netflix documentary you cannot watch on Netflix. You have to watch it on Amazon, which is hilarious. But it's on Amazon. It's a Netflix documentary. It's how I got started. Really good.
It's Netflix versus
It's
the world.
Netflix versus the world. So with influencers are sometimes the innovators and disruptors. But what people like to do, they like to do what we called in the early 90s, 80s, we would call it riding the coattails of somebody else, of an influencer. And so today, somebody that might be on Instagram and have, 100,000, 10,000 followers on Instagram, they'll make their living by tweeting, posting on their story on somebody that gives them money. Say, hey, can you promote this show, promote this, wear this item, do this thing, so that people will connect me with you.
Yeah.
To me, if you're doing that, you're not being disruptive. You're being a follower because you're utilizing somebody else's influence.
Yeah, but if you come in and you cause havoc in the industry and cause everybody to want to be like that, to me, that's a disruptor. You're outside the norm, and I think for youth groups and not just youth groups, but anybody with a business or something like that needs to give an influencer their phone or their social media, reins over their social media, so they can be a disruptor to the norm. Be a disruptor. You know what I mean? Like mine, this whole affiliated defensive driving that we posted, it's so, like bland. But if I were to give that social media to some young person, they'd be like, well, we don't need that. We're going to push social media all day long, or we're going to push online classes.
Right.
Which is why Maddie says that.
Yeah.
And I'm older, so I say, no, we need to do inside.
And this is ugly. This is the ugly part, is that it's usually someone younger that disrupts the older, how they're doing things.
Yeah.
I was sharing with someone the other day that people don't realize that the individuals that gave us everything that we have today, the iPhones, the smartphones, the Macs, the PCs, Windows, Google, YouTube, like all these folks are Gen X people. Mm-hmm. They're the ones that brought all this stuff that we use today.
And yet we call them lazy. They're not lazy.
And so,
in some retrospect, some things.
And so, when you look at being a disruptor, you have to change the way that life is done and the way that things are done.
Then we should be a disruptor.
I was thinking about, you were talking about church, and I was thinking about Willie George in Tulsa.
Disruptor.
He changed completely children's ministry. He changed youth ministry. Mm-hmm. A lot of what he did, and a lot of the people that were in relationship with him during that time did not like how he did things. Did not like the way that he was approaching it. And it was interesting because you're a disruptor when they say that they don't like it or they don't attend.
But they turn around and do it.
But they turn around and use what your thoughts and what you're trying to do, your innovations that you're using. And so, from that perspective, that's when you start realizing that you're disrupting the norm in a greater degree. Because a lot of times, people, to me, and I saw this on Shark Tank, is that I forget. I think it was Mr. Wonderful that said this. He says, "You're not. If you have to tell somebody that you're disrupting the market, then you're not disrupting the market.
Yeah.
If you have to show your numbers that you're disrupting the market, you're not disrupting the market.
Yeah.
The way that you're a disruptor in a market or industry is when you're hearing the blowback. You know, that your blowback and the support, meaning people are against you and then people are completely supporting you. So you don't have to look at the numbers because you're watching the trends, you're watching what's happening. So you don't need, well, we did X amount of numbers this month and next. Now, I'm not saying you don't keep up with that type of stuff, but what he was saying is that when you disrupt, no one, Steve Jobs didn't be like, okay, we're going to check the cell phone. Like they were just like, look, we're making this cell phone. It doesn't matter if you like it. It doesn't matter if you don't like it. But we have this new iPhone computer that we're the very first one. This is what we're doing. They were being innovative. They didn't say that they were disrupting the phone industry. They didn't. They just did it, right? And so then you saw the disruption as it took place.
Yeah.
And that's what Mr. Wonderful was saying. I think it was Mr. Wonderful. He was telling the guy, he's like, we're disrupting the market. He's like, if you're having to tell me that you're disrupting the market, then you're not.
No.
Because when you disrupt something, everybody hears about it and knows about it. Before they're like, let's go. So everybody knows those videos that you get and you watch and you're like, have you seen that video? 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 That's what disruption looks like.
Their new word for disruption would be viral.
Yeah, it could be. They're kind of hand in hand, but just viral is very short lived. It reaches a peak real quick and then it disappears. But disruption changes the culture. It changes the way you do life.
Well, then that's the lesson for today, guys, is be disruptors in life, be disruptors in your job, be disruptors in your industry, and change the way we live. How's that?
Yeah, sounds good.
Just Netflix just really lit a fire.
There's a real good documentary, guys. If you get a chance to watch the Netflix versus the World on Amazon, you can't buy it.
Nice.
It's not on Prime. You have to rent it.
Yeah.
It's a really good show.
Yep. Cool. There you go, being a disruptor,
Sorry.
finding all the videos that no one would think about.
Nobody else thinking about watching.
Yeah. All right.
Learn.
Thank you guys for listening today, and
We haven't gotten our food yet, so we're going to wait, and then I guess we'll eat.
they don't get to see it today.
You don't get to see us eat today. Sorry. So sorry. Is that it? We holler at you guys?
Yeah.
We'll see you guys next Wednesday. We'll try not to skip a Wednesday. Forgive us. Shout out to Gil for asking where our Wednesday service, our Wednesday podcast was last week.
Yeah.
Sorry, Natalie. Sorry, Gil. Sorry, Annette, all our faithful listeners and watchers.
And Fran.
I know Wes just watched our last podcast because he texted me this morning. So anyway, we'll talk to you guys later. Y'all be blessed. Y'all have a good week.